So it's just really unpacking gender-based violence in the nightlife. So without wasting any time, we're going to have 2 panels, and then after the 2 panels, we'll take a little bit of the break. Again, for those who are here for the free food, that's when we will have the food. And then we will then divide into groups where we will try and have discussions and find solutions on how we can combat gender-based violence. If you don't know, our femicide rate is 6 times higher than the global average. And if you don't know what that means, about 15 women are killed in our country every single day by their intimate partner. But not only that, those are the numbers of women that are reported. So obviously there are higher numbers that are out there. So if you're still sitting here and you're thinking, oh, it doesn't affect me, it does affect you. Your silence becomes violence. So I really appreciate everyone that is here, especially the men, because there was a term floating around that men are trash. I, for one, do not believe that men are trash. I feel like we've left the men behind, and therefore we can't match with them. We have so many programs that empower women, but who are we empowering these women for if we are leaving the boy child behind? So this is why we are here today, so that we can debunk all of that. Again, without wasting any time, I just want to welcome everybody, people that have come in a little bit late. Today, I would like to call it turning ideas into action, because that's what we want to do at the end of the day. It's just going to be a dynamic session where we really explore innovative ideas or strategies on how we can combat gender-based violence. The great University of Johannesburg Community Engagement Unit, in collaboration with the library, has obviously gathered all of us here so that we can try and unpack this topic through constructive dialogue. We will have a panel of young women and men who will come through and share in their spaces what are they doing in terms of combating and working with victims of gender-based violence. As much as it's going to be a dialogue with the panelists, please feel free to raise your hand if you feel a question resonates with you and you would like to answer. I'm sure there will be a roaming mic, so you will get the opportunity. Is everybody okay with that? Yes. Guys, I don't know if you've seen, for those who've just come in, there is tea, there is water on your stations. So for those who just want to take like a 5 minutes breather, maybe go and grab something to drink, please do that, so that when we do start, we don't have commotion. Are we good with that?
Okay, good day again. So my work, I deal with social crime prevention. We do oversight of police, making sure that they do their work. So I raise awareness on gender-based violence. I go to schools, and we do motivational talks on gangsterism, substance abuse, on human trafficking, on sexual abuse, also on teenage pregnancy. So in every police station, there is a victim-friendly room. In the victim-friendly room, there is officers who are social crime prevention. They deal only with issues of social crime. That includes domestic violence, child abuse, and likes. And then there's also I would say, a volunteer from Lifeline, who's a social worker. When you go to the police station and you want to report a case of When you go to a police station and you want to open a case of domestic violence, normally a person knows that at charge office, that's where you report all cases. But most of the time, people feel victimized. They will be asked certain questions in front of a lot of people. So domestic violence is very sensitive. Rape is very sensitive. So that's why there is VFR in all the police stations. So we encourage, as we do awareness campaigns, we encourage communities to report those cases in the victim-friendly rooms. So when they get to charge office, they will tell them that I'm here for a GBV case.
Is that on mic? Yeah. It's rolling. That's simple.
So we encourage them to, specify to say, I'm here for gender-based violence case, and I would like to speak to a victim empowerment officer. So they show them to that office and they report those cases. Specify to say, I'm here for gender-based violence case, and I would like to speak to a victim empowerment officer. So they show them to that office and they report those cases. See, when you are abused, and you are abused by a person who's providing for you, I'll make an example because these are the cases.
Financial abuse, that's what it's called.
Yeah, no, not financial abuse. When you are abused, you don't work. Your boyfriend is the one who's providing for you. Every now and then he slaps you around. Every now and then he beats you up. Sometimes you land in hospital. You open a case because you are furious and you want to be helped. So you go to the police station, you open a case of domestic violence. After opening a case of domestic violence, it's on a Friday. You get home, this boyfriend of yours brings beautiful flowers, they bring groceries, and they give you a lot of money. And on Monday, you go back and you reject the case. You cancel the case. So these are the things that we see every day. That person, they will go to the police station, my sister, and open that same case 500 times. 500 times, and on the 501, on the 501 time, that's when they will say, now I want help, and I'm leaving this person for good. So that person has the right to do that. You can't turn that person back just because they came 10 times to open the same case, and they keep on coming back until they are ready to say, I want help. I'm ready to leave this thing. It's not working out for me. I'm going to die in this relationship. That's when they will decide to leave. So we allow them, they must go back. They must go back until such time they are ready to actually open the case.
Okay, Sis Carol, I hear you. A lot of women do not, why do you stay? But what people don't understand is that it takes a woman 7 attempts before they can leave an abusive situation. 7 attempts is not today, it's not tomorrow, it's not next month. It could be anything for that person. Remember, when you are in an abusive relationship, a lot of times the focus should be on the perpetrator, but it is on the victim. So you have to plan an exit strategy. I have 2 children to go to 2 different schools. I live in Centurion. I'm running away from my abuser. I have to come to a shelter in Johannesburg because if I go to Pretoria, chances are he will find me. If I go to Johannesburg, my kids' school has to change. My route to work has to change. My life has to change. And obviously this will not just affect me physically, but psychologically and mentally. It is so sad that women continue to be just victimized, even though there are victims, where a perpetrator will sit at home and enjoy the comfort of everything else. And the reason why we have lack of shelters in our country is because we are creating shelters for the wrong people. Because the people that need the shelters are the men that abuse you. They need to go there and be rehabilitated. And we need the sexual offenders list to be out there so that we know who's who. Because the dangers of not having that, guys, your daughter will marry somebody that was never reported. A lot of people flee places. Let's look at Lusikisiki. I do a lot of talks and works and workshops in Lusikisiki. It's deemed as the rape capital of the world. They have so many thousands and thousands of cases that they can do nothing about because they have no rape kits. And by the time, 5 years later, you will go to court. First, we'll talk about evidence. After 5 years. So there's obviously something wrong, and we can't blame it on policies, guys. South Africa has one of the best legislation when it comes to Domestic Violence Act and gender-based violence. Other countries copy us. They copy our legislation. Our biggest problem is going out there and implementing it. And again, the reason why we suck at implementing, besides those that steal the money, is the fact that people always look at the situation and think, it doesn't affect me. So why? Why should I go there? Again, if you are going to react only when it affects you, then you will be matching with the t-shirt that is justice for your daughter, or justice for your niece, or justice for your granny, or justice for your mother. So you are not just fighting for the now. But you are those who plant a seed. They don't plant it so that they can enjoy the shade now. It's for other people. We are here today planting a seed so that our daughters don't have to be marching to the union buildings in the next 10 years, demanding that Cyril changes gender-based violence into the pandemic that he has deemed it to be. So, Alisa, moving on, you are in the mental health space. Gender-based violence in the nightlife settings can have severe psychological effect or impact on survivors. As someone in that space, can you just give us an insight on what is the effect, and not just the now, but moving forward? How does the trauma, spill out on somebody who has experienced gender-based violence?
Thank you for that question, Cheryl. So I'm going to divide this into two. So part one is survivors who have experienced gender-based violence on a once-off, meaning you were just going to spa at 7 o'clock because it's closing at 8 and someone harms you, right? That's what we call acute trauma. Something has happened to you, you're in shock, you're traumatized, so everything about your life is changing now, you're scared for your life, you realize that you can't carry on as normal, you can't go back to how you used to live life because this thing has happened to you, right? And then we have the other side, where it is a repetitive event, where it's a lifestyle, right? So perhaps someone lives in a violent community or lives with a partner that goes out every night, right? And this person comes back drunk and they harm you, right? So a survivor in this case who has experienced this violation and harm and abuse over a period of time or several times, this one is different from the first one, because this one, probably because it happens at night behind closed doors, it becomes a norm. They feel trapped. They start to think that it is acceptable. They take on the shame. Instead of now feeling comfortable to tell the family or the pastor the truth, they now take on that shame, and therefore it becomes a secret, and now they don't have a good self-esteem, their self-worth suffers. So both of these people in 1 and 2, it's so important for their mental health to be taken care of, right? I like to give example of what I went through, right? I was physically injured and I thought I would just be okay. I didn't think that it was important for me to, after getting medical attention, to talk to a social worker, because I was like, if I hurt my neck, I don't need to talk to anyone, right? So I tried to carry on as normal, but eventually it caught up with me. And ultimately I was diagnosed with major depression. And then after about 7 years of treatment, I was diagnosed with bipolar. So this is to say that when someone is harmed and they're not treated, it can manifest into a mental illness, whether it was once off or whether it is repeated.
And I'm sorry to interject there, Vanessa, because this happens a lot in so many households where if a child reports rape to a mother, the mother will say, deal with it. You're not the first time to get raped in this family. So those are the things that we need to be cognizant of, because that spills into that psychological effect in the long run.
So we call that one intergenerational trauma, whereby in a community or in a family, this type of abuse is normalized, whether it's financial abuse, whether it's sexual abuse. very deep in the church right now because I have a very big weight in my heart. My heart is so pained, right? Not because of my own challenges, but I have a daughter and I'm looking at the state of our society and how is this beautiful thing, how is she expected to survive in this ugly world? So every day I'm in pain. That's why I do community work, because it's so painful. So with that said, where there's intergenerational trauma, it's so difficult because these people think it's a norm. So meaning, instead of saying, hey, I want help, this is happening in my family, they sit in silence and they hurt each other in different ways. One will say, my mom is verbally abusive, and then the mom will say, oh, this child doesn't even care, you know. So where we find intergenerational trauma, it's a very painful cycle whereby the perpetrators and survivors are coexisting. It's like there's no way out. No one is running out to say, guys, come help us, or I want out of this, help me, you know. So that's how it affects people. But what I want to say, even though the exposure to harm can lead to mental illness or mental health problems, I want to emphasize that mentally healthy people are able to recognize when something is not right, and they're able to get out of it. So the cycles of abuse continue because mental health is so poor. Mental health is so poor in our homes, behind closed doors, right?
Have you seen a misdiagnosis? Because I have dealt with a lot of cases in my space where you can see which this person clearly needs to take medication. Either it's schizophrenia, or it is depression, or they have anxiety attacks, and because have you seen that?
I haven't seen it, I've experienced it, I've lived it. So I share my personal story because I think sometimes we expect for problems to look a certain way.
Yeah.
So I've volunteered myself. I mean, I want to be a cool girl, you know, I want to be vibes. Who doesn't want to be like Rihanna? But I'm realizing that if I keep quiet, people will think that someone who goes through these things looks a certain way.
Absolutely.
So with that said, I've been misdiagnosed, right? And it's not so much that the health system is failing us, but it takes time for mental health to fully manifest and to be fully diagnosed. And I was in a position where I eventually got to an accurate diagnosis because of my consistency. So we have patients who are inconsistent in the sense that when they're due to go see their therapist, they don't show up. So I was very diligent in therapy. When I didn't feel okay, the first place I would go to, I wouldn't tell my mom. My mom is an amazing mom, but I knew that this lady, her job was to raise me and birth me. She doesn't know what I'm going through, so I need to go to the hospital. So I normalized it for myself that if I'm not okay, I'm not going to tell my family, I'm going to go to the hospital to get help. So with that said, misdiagnosis happens because of how regular we seek help when we need it. Because before a diagnosis, there needs to be a certain pattern. So I'll give an example. In my teen years, I always had stomach problems, right? So I even thought I had stomach cancer at some point because I was always throwing up. If it's not diarrhea, it's this. Only to realize it was anxiety, right? So when I was being treated for major depression, I was being seen by a gastroenterologist who specializes in the stomach health, right? So that person worked very closely with my psychologist and my psychiatrist. That's why they were able to connect the dots and ultimately be able to say that this is the diagnosis. So with that said, it's so important that when someone is unwell, that they find it in themselves to seek help. They must want the help. As Sis Carol said, like, you must want the help for yourself. And I wanted the help for myself. That's why I took myself to the doctor. I didn't say, my family, couldn't they see that I'm sweating? They should, you know, I took it upon myself. I wanted help. Because remember, sometimes you tell a loved one, yo, I'm not well, they'll give you Panado. Do you understand? So we must do away with self-medicating, but seek medical clarity so that we arrive at that diagnosis. So the pattern of misdiagnosis, it's because of the behavior of the patient. Like, are you reaching out to healthcare professionals, or do you hop around from one doctor to another? What I did for myself is I held myself accountable. So instead of always changing doctors, I was like, I'm on a journey with this doctor so that they know my beginning, they know my middle, and then once I recover, we can tell a full story so that when we share awareness, it's of evidence-based progress.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. I also just want to find out, in our space here, do we have anybody that is a traditional healer or on the journey? Baba, uphakamisa isandla ngoba you're a traditional healer noma unombuzo? Okay. Ngisacela ama-traditional healers okamanje. Ngisacela i-mic there. Ngisacela uzi-introduce.
My type woman came, so I don't want to do too much of the definitions, but to say nightlife gender-based violence for me would be any act of violence. And do you know what, sometimes it doesn't mean it's only if you end up having to get a rape kit. It doesn't mean it only counts if you need to end up in hospital with stitches. Do you know what I mean? Any form of harassment, it begins inside the club before anybody even touches you. So for me, it's any harassment, it's people pushing on you and having an entitlement on a woman, without consent, I suppose. So,
Absolutely. Thanks, Palesa.
Good morning. Thank you for having me, Cheryl. Thank you for having me, University of Johannesburg. I welcome all the guests once more. So, to me, GBV in the context of nightlife is the imbalance of power. It is oppression, it is violation. It's when, as a woman, when you step out of the home, you're already scared because you know that someone might speak to you inappropriately. You don't know if you'll come back home alive. So I believe that these things don't just happen at night, they're happening everywhere, all the time, behind closed doors.
Absolutely.
So in the context of nightlife, it's just that I believe that more people are more comfortable doing the wrong thing in the dark. People think they can't be seen. They think that it's not noticeable. That's why these things are reported usually at night in the morning, right? So for me, it's scary at night because it's when the perpetrators are so comfortable to let loose and to attack. And for me, I realized that I am so scared to leave the home after dark because I'm expectant to be, I expect to be harmed because it's become such a norm.
Thanks, Palesa. Let's move on to Carol.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. For me, gender-based violence in the context of nightlife, I'm a person who likes going out and having fun.
Yes, girl.
Because I'm over 40 now.
Usman.
So I want to feel safe when I decide that at 6 o'clock I want to go out with my friends and go hang out with my friends, go clubbing or whatever it may be. And I want to wear whatever that I want to wear. In going to the place that I'm going to. When I walk in the street, I want to feel safe. When I call an Uber to come and pick me up, I want to feel safe, but I'm not feeling safe. Why am I not feeling safe? It's because of the pandemic.
Conversation, because a lot of times people think overcoming gender-based violence is a task of charity. It is not. It is a task of every single human being that is here. And thank you also for touching base on the issue of children, because as parents, when we send our kids to the school and they have behavioral issues, we always blame or teacher. But one thing that we need to know, and I see a lot of women here, I see a lot of mothers, we need to be cognizant of the fact that when we raise our kids, we don't raise them for us. We raise them for the world. And it's so important to impart great fundamentals, great principles, that they will go out there and become good human beings. not because they fear the Lord or fear anything, just to be good human beings. So mothers, as we live here, it is so easy to walk out and say, oh, abantu besilisa bayahlupha, oh, abantu besilisa bayabulala, oh, men are trash. But who gave birth to those men? It's us. It is our responsibility. And there is no woman here who goes through, I don't understand if people understand how dangerous pregnancy is. Nobody goes through that and say, Ingane is alive, is always giving. No, we want the best for our kids. So it is so important to raise our kids right. I know these young people talk about gentle parenting. I don't even know what is that. I will threaten you. It's my house. I will break your head. But yes, again, it is important for us to understand that when we raise our kids, we raise them for the world and not for us. And also understanding that there are no gender roles. Because I'm at a university now, and believe me, a lot of your daughters are wives to young boys. At home, abapheki, abaklini, abenzi nix. But every day, 7 colors. But when I do a cup of coffee, kidney. So let us raise our kids properly, let us raise our boys properly, and make them aware that cleaning and cooking is a basic skill. It's not a gender role, so that they don't come here and bother Ingan Zabandu. And also, Kenel, thank you so much for sharing that, your fears as a police officer who goes out there. And I'm gonna go, sorry, not Carol, Kenel. So I'm gonna go to Carol because you work with victim crime unit. So I'm gonna go to Carol because you work with victim crime unit. And what people don't understand here, I don't know if people are aware, but every police station is supposed to have a victim crime unit. So if you feel anything has happened to you, whether you've been raped or just gender-based violence, any type, whether it's sexual, verbal, I don't know, sexual, psychological, you can go there and they will assist you in opening a case. And obviously they work with Lifeline in order to make sure that you come to a place of stability. Sisi, can you please explain more in terms of the crucialness of your work and what are the steps in terms of that? And also by law, is someone allowed to open a case and then cancel the case? Because most women are coerced into cancelling a case afterward. What does the law or policy say about that when it comes to domestic violence issues?